Welcome back to the vlog. I am hands-free, I am driving. It's Saturday morning, I'm a little caffeinated. We are going to show 3 houses today, this morning to my Alpharetta, Cumming, Roswell, really whatever will pop up. As you guys have heard me say in past videos, we're still in a seller's market, quarantine or not, and it doesn't seem to be showing any signs of changing, at least at this point. So apologize for the angle, hope the audio is okay, but we gotta go. So that Porsche is the newest model, the 992, and if you look, you go to the dealer, or if you see one out and you look at the back of the car where the intake vents are, there's 9 on the left, there's 9 on the right, and then there's 2 brake lights, I think they are, or maybe plastic piece, or carbon fiber, whatever, in the middle, 2, so 992, that's how you know what model that is. Your daily useless Porsche knowledge for the day. Okay, so we're kind of like right here on the edge of Johns Creek, Cumming, Alpharetta corner-ish area, but this is really cool. We just finished looking at the last house. I thought this little feature of this neighborhood was really, really cool. So as a part of this HOA, you get this little gazebo with a fire pit in there. I mean, look at that stonework, look at the wood, like just really, really nicely done. And one of the neighbors just stopped us and said, "It's a great house, come look at it." And so walk through the house and then check that place out. In addition, you have swim and tennis here as well, which is just a huge benefit. Obviously, build this community, and especially with a young family, you want to have that strong sense of community right now. Not just in the middle of a global pandemic. All right, so we just got done showing 3 properties, really, really nice. Kind of like the low 500s to high 400s thereabouts, Cumming, Alpharetta area, a little north of Atlanta. But today I thought I would share a little more with you guys about, why I became an entrepreneur, what kind of pushed me over the edge, so to speak. And obviously I didn't start out, building my first business even just a couple of years ago. There were basically like the last 20 years of where I was trying to like cut my teeth with entrepreneurship. And so, the long and short of it, and also this kind of goes into why I've decided to get really back into my YouTube game here is, there's 2 reasons. So let's start simple with the first one. So the reason that I became an entrepreneur was because I wanted to really control my own destiny, right? And we all want that on some level, and there's just different sacrifices that some of us make and others don't to achieve those lifestyles and those decisions and choices that we get to make. And so for me, really kind of where the rubber hit the road, 12, 13, 14 years ago now, I started my first business. I sold stuff for people on eBay. That business ultimately failed. And I was not willing to change my business and adapt to the new marketplace, the new normal within our local economy here in Atlanta to adjust and to meet the new demand. A lot of people, and this was like 08, 09, so there was a lot of other stuff going on as it relates to real estate and the market in general, but my wife was a realtor at the time and made it through, I think, 2010 or so, when then she decided to go into healthcare insurance and that world. But we saw a lot of change in a very short amount of time, and 2 years is a short amount of time, relatively speaking, over the course of your life. And so that business failed, and I just couldn't adjust fast enough. And so ultimately had to close that business down. Didn't go bankrupt or anything. I just wasn't making money. So I had to go and get a real job, 9 to 5. And so I did that. And but I learned a lot from that, and ultimately brought that into what was my lawn care business, and now, of course, what is real estate. Fast forward here to, call it, 2015 or so, the fall of 2015, I was working for Staples in the kind of facilities division. For those of you that don't know, Staples is an office products company, but they sell a lot of other stuff. And I got brought into their facilities division where I sold toilet paper, soap, sanitizer, paper towels, really anything that you needed to invest, maintain, and clean commercial facilities. And so that could be a car dealership, it could be an office building, it could be hospitals. A lot of my business was hospitals. But I worked there for about 2 years, and in the spring of 2015, there was a major adjustment to our compensation plan. I'll spare you the details, but basically my income was going to be pretty dramatically affected. And I didn't like that anymore. But in the same breath and at the same time, in the last year or so prior, 2014, 15, 16, I lost both of my grandfathers. They were both very entrepreneurial, even from a very, very young age. And in losing both of them, it made me get very retrospective on my first business, but just life in general, and trying to think about this life is short. One of my grandfathers passed really unexpectedly, and it was a bit of a shock, to be honest with you guys. But for me, it was one of those moments in my life where it was like, you need to live this life to the fullest. You need to take the chances, regardless of if you have a young family or not, and really try. I really needed to kind of dust my entrepreneurial self off, get back up, and give it another shot. So, having said that, and having attended those funerals, I got to thinking about my relationship with both my grandfathers, and I had very different relationships with each of them. One was very distant. We still talked. We were still, there weren't any like bad terms or anything. But he just, and even growing up, wasn't a huge part of our life. I mean, we saw him for holidays and birthdays and all that type of stuff, but it wasn't what I would refer to or call the perfect grandparent-grandchild relationship. And I don't hold any ill will or anything against him. It's just who he was. And it's just what it was, honestly. It didn't, even as a kid, it didn't really affect me. It was just a different relationship. And the only reason I knew it was different was because my relationship with my other grandfather. We were very close, and I saw him at least once a month, sometimes and more often than not, multiple times a month, and not just at family gatherings, but just he and I, one-on-one. And not only was I able to glean just a ton of entrepreneurial skills and knowledge and wisdom from him, but I was also able to develop a much better relationship with him because of the time that I spent with him and the time that he spent with me. And so after attending both of their funerals, I really just was looking for that connection and looking for that opportunity to be like, what can I hold on to? What legacy? What times? Just hearing their voices on videos and honestly, that's kind of what pushed me to get back into YouTube and to produce content on a lot of different platforms. And so, and looking back through pictures and watching videos and stuff of them and me as a kid, and even, more recently into my teenage years and into my 20s, and then having, gotten married and have kids and stuff for us, to see how they engaged with their great-grandchildren, it was just really, really cool. And so, but a big part of me just longed for that, like holding on to that relationship, and not in an unhealthy way, just that desire to kind of reconnect with who they are and to wish that they were still here and that I could maybe glean something from their wisdom. And so that's ultimately what pushed me into producing content on social media, and then saving it forever and ever. Not just here on YouTube, but through Instagram, through Snapchat, through Facebook. I want my kids, and I want my grandkids, and I want my great-grandkids to go back and watch me build my lawn care business. And that's why there's 100 and something videos here of me just out like doing that every day. I wanted that. I really, really wanted that from my grandparents. And I think it would have been really, really cool to be able to look back on how did they build their businesses. I mean, they were in very different businesses, and they built very different businesses, and they built them to two totally different levels. But I always longed for that from them, and I wanted to kind of leave something behind, my legacy piece, if you will, for my kids and for my grandkids and for my great-grandkids and for generations to come. And so I can't wait for my great grandson or great daughter to find this content and go, wow, that's my great grandfather. And I think that's just going to be so cool. And so that's why I developed the videos. That's why I developed the podcast. Even just to hear their voice, I think would be really cool on not just business, like just life, what was going on, like to hear about them having my parents, right? To hear about them building their business, to hear about them moving from one area to another, I think would just be a really cool insight for me as their grandson. And so that's really selfishly why I'm doing this. I hope, my plan is to deliver some value here, whether you find my content inspirational, motivational, entertaining, educational, like whatever you're here for. I really hope you find that. And that's my ultimate goal, is to provide something of value, even if it's just you going and doing the same thing. I think that would be a really valuable thing for me to know. So I'd love to hear from you down in the comments what you find in my content, what's valuable to you, what you find insightful or motivational or inspiring, or whatever you find. My feelings are never going to be hurt in how you receive my content, but at the same time, I really desire to like have that connection, and I want to hear the comments. But what's even cooler, and for me this is just like, I get goosebumps every time I tell people this, these buyers that I'm working with today, he found me through the podcast that I do. The podcast on Apple, iTunes, and pretty much anywhere you can find your podcast is Selling Sandy Springs. And it's not just real estate. It's not just about real estate. It's not just about me. It's not just about what I'm trying to do. It's about those non-profits and businesses that I'm talking to. I put that into a podcast, more digestible form there. And of course there's a video to go along with it. But this particular client found me through the podcast, and it's kind of funny because he shared with me, and I'm sure he'd be happy to have me share here, that he was listening to one of my episodes where I talked about my son, and this same exact message was kind of coming across. I want my son to look back on this and go, I got that from dad, or I got that from mom, like, and I want to show them how hard I worked to build a better life for them. So this client found me on the podcast, shared that with me the first time that we met face to face, and I welled up. I almost started like getting really emotional about it, because I was like, yes, that's working. And that was him. That was a client, a potential client at the time. And honestly, like super selfishly, even if I got no business from the podcast, from the videos, from Selling Sandy Springs, from any of it ever again, I'd be totally fine with it. And I know a lot of you don't believe me on that, and I'm fine with that. I'm not trying to convince you otherwise, but I really selfishly, I just want to leave these videos behind so that the first checkbox for me is, I want my kids, I want my wife after I'm gone, I want my grandkids, I want my aunts and uncles, and everyone that's going to be in my family tree after this thing, to be able to look back and remember who I was and what I did, and my work ethic and the effort that I put in to building a great business, to being the best father and the best husband that I could have possibly been. And that's it. If I get business from it, that's icing on the cake. If I get an opportunity to do something via YouTube or via Instagram or Facebook or anything else, fantastic. But that is the afterthought for me. That really is the afterthought, and I don't even put the effort in for that, honestly. So anyway, just my thoughts. Why I'm an entrepreneur. Why I've decided to get back into YouTube in a real way, and produce as much content as I plan to produce here over the coming weeks and months and hopefully years. And so if you see something happen as a result of this page or this channel, you're going to understand that my intentions are very clear. And I think it's very easy in this day and age to look at social media, to look at YouTube and think that things are different, or that there is a different intention, or there's a different purpose. I'm putting it out there very early on here. There is one purpose for this thing for me, and if it accomplishes other things along the way, so be it. But anyway, that is the vlog for today. Thank you so much for following along. I hope there was something that you got from this, something that you learned or picked up, because again, at the end of the day, super selfish of me, but I'm doing it for me, and I'm doing it for the future generations of my family. And anyway, I hope that helps someone out there. I hope that someone takes something away from that. I know there's a lot of loss going on right now with this pandemic, and for me, I've gotten very insular on it. For me, I've gotten very, what is your impact going to be? What does the long term of this thing look like for you and for your family? And it's really easy to answer for me, and it's why I've decided over the last couple weeks here to double, quadruple down on video and audio content, and I hope that it is of some value to someone out there. So thanks for following along. We'll see you on the next one.